Hi guys, Gabi from UiPath Hacks here. Today's video is about the UiPath Apps, exploring the interface and building a very simple app that demonstrates some of the simple but very powerful features of the UiPath Apps. Watch the video to find out more. So let's get familiar with the interface. I will go through most of the features and try to explain them, and at the end we will be building together a simple app from scratch. So let's create a new app, and we have to give it a name first. We will call it Folders Dashboard, and it will count the number of Excel files in a folder, Excel or any other files, separate the invoices from the delivery notes, and show a total number of documents for both categories. So let's start with the left side panel. We have here the app name, and we can click the plus sign to either add a page to our app or connect to a process. And we have here the details of our app, a description name. We can put an icon as well. We have the production URL, the one that we can pass over once we publish our app. Then we have user permissions and history. So I can create an additional page. By default, I have a main page to the app, but I can have, of course, multiple pages in my app and switch between them with different actions. For now, we will just play with the main one, and we can connect to a process that is basically the backend that the app communicates with, that will do the work basically behind the app. And in our case, we said we want to create a dashboard, a very simple dashboard for the user to be able to count the number of invoices and delivery notes in a folder. So I've already built a back-end process for that. I will select it from the list. It's this one, where I'm giving as an input a string with a path, and I'm giving out from the bot's point of view the number of invoices and delivery notes. So I'll just select this, and let's view very quickly the bot. I have three arguments. We've just seen them before: input for the path and output for the number of invoices and delivery notes. So I'm getting with the directory get files all the documents in this folder. I'm copying them in an array of files. Then I'm just making sure I have a 0 for both the number of invoices and delivery notes. And then for each item in the array of files, if the name of the document contains the word invoice, then I'm basically counting it as an invoice and incrementing the number of invoices with 1. And if it contains delivery note, I'm incrementing the argument out into delivery note with 1. And then I'm just showing here the data just for debugging purposes. And I have here, this is the folder I will play with. I have 2 delivery notes and 3 invoices as an example. So that's what we should expect to get. All right, let's go back to the app now. So we've seen the left-hand side. We have here the main page with all the elements on the page. I have nothing yet, so I will need to add some elements. And on the right side panel, I have the option to add a new control. I have that option as well from this plus once I select my page. So if I'm on the app name, I don't have it, but once I go on the page, I get the option to add a control, the same button as this one here. And let's just have a look at the controls. We have 4 categories. Input is basically anything a user can interact with. We have buttons, checkboxes, date pickers, drop-down lists, sliders, switches, text area, so bigger text, and the input text, the text box. We have the display. We can display custom list, a divider, a header, then an image, label, and a list, and a table as well. Probably the most used ones will be the header and the label, I imagine. And then we have containers. And we have 3 containers here. What is the difference between them? The container layout is basically what we have here as well. We have the main page, the layout, and then the container. It's basically the parent, let's say, level for containers. And then inside the container layout, we can define multiple containers. And this is the container basically inside the container layout. So this is the container layout, and the small white area is the container. Here we can put our elements. And why do we want to have more containers or even more container layouts? Because we want to group our app and make it look nice. Now, in this first app, we will not do that. We will not focus on aesthetics. We just want to be able to add some elements, link them to the bot running behind, and basically understand as well as possible the interface and the options. But that's why we would later on want to use more containers and container layouts, just to be able to separate elements in different containers and make them look nicer on screen. And we have also a page container. This is used to simulate having other page elements inside the same page. For example, we have our main page here. We could create a new page, and then we could kind of include our second page in the main page with this page container. And then we have the icons. We have here predefined lists, a predefined list of icons. We have a few hundred icons here, I guess. We can just use them in our app just to make it look nicer. All right, so let's select now maybe a header, because we want to give our app a name. So you've seen how I drag and drop it, and then I get a blue line showing where that item would be added. So right now I've pulled here a header. Let's give it maybe the name of the app, folders dashboard. I will also call it here folders dashboard, because I want to see the name here and very quickly, easily switch between them. So maybe let's make this a bit bigger. I can drag this. All right, and now this is my header. I have the text here, and I have 3 tabs. I have general, events, and style. So we have the value binding option here. What does it mean? We can click it, and then we see we can link basically different variables or arguments from a process. In my case, I've added my folders dashboard backend process, and I can bind the value of this header to one of the arguments here. So if I want it to be dynamic and show here whatever value I have in an argument at a certain time, I could bind it with such an argument here. In this case, this is the title of the app. I don't want to do it, but I will do it later when I want to show the number of invoices and delivery notes. Then we have here the events, and this is where we create rules. We will see it in a second when we will add some buttons. And then we have the styling option here, where we could add fonts, size, different ways of styling the text, margins, and so on. We will not go into this right now. We will have a separate video on making our app look nice. But for now, we will basically try to understand the functionality, especially in the general and the events tab. So we've added our header here. What else do we need for our app? We will need a new control to specify the path of the folder we want to count the invoices and delivery notes of. So that should be a text box, an input. This is where the user should enter it. And you see we drag and drop it, and we have this blue line kind of allowing me to select where I want my text box to be placed. So I'll place it under the header. Let's give it a name just here for the selection. So it will be called path. And actually it would be nice to have a label just above it to clarify why we have this here. So we can use a label. We can put it between the header and this, and we call it file path. And here it is. The identifier is updated as well. Ideally, we would have had here an element to browse for the file, but I didn't find it in the predefined elements for now. All right, and now we would need a button to basically call our bot to count the files. So we can add a new control. We go into input and drag and drop button here. We can call it check files. All right, and now we go to events and we should create a rule. So what we need to do when the user clicks the check files? We need basically to start the process. So we have now all the rules available for us. Let's maybe go through them quickly. We have the if then else rule. This is basically for comparing two values in a condition and then doing either of the then or else options. We are very familiar with this, I assume, from the if activity in Studio. It basically does the same thing. And once we have to compare or group here, and then for then or else, we can choose another action here, another event. If we want to go back, we can then view the other options. Open a page is basically opening a different page of the app. We have in our case only one page, the main page, but if we would have added more pages for our app, we could, on the click of this button, open a new one. So that's how we can interact between the pages. And we have here the page. I have only one. And then we have three options. Open as popover or modal. This is kind of a pop-up, opening the page in a pop-up screen. Then the showing as bottom sheet. This will open that page as a small container at the bottom of the screen and then prevent close on click. If it's checked, it will make sure the dialog opened above will not disappear on clicking away. So this is the I will delete this. So this is the option with open page. Then open URL. This opens an external website, something that is not on our app, but external on the internet. Then close popover or bottom sheet. This is basically closing the either popover page or bottom sheet page opened before. The show message will display kind of a toast notification as an overlay on top of the app. You can specify the title and the message as well as where it displays. On the top or bottom of the page, and for how long it's visible. So this is kind of an overlay message that just gives feedback to the user that something happened after, for example, clicking a button. All right, and then we have here the show or hide spinner. This is just displaying an overlay on top of the app with an optional message stating what's going on, like bot is running, please wait, and so on. And while the spinner is visible, the user cannot interact with the app. So you want to make sure that you block the user input until your backend process finishes running, for example. So we have here the spinner is visible and the message. And then the last two values are probably the ones used the most. Set values is basically changing the value of a property. We can use it for labels or for input fields and pass over values from arguments of a certain backend process, for example. And start process is basically calling a backend process and making it run. So in our app, we want to have the button called the backend process. So we definitely need to use this rule. And we will see that we don't have to use only one rule. We can combine multiple rules in the same action. So we choose the process to start. We can type or drag and drop here. I can just click it and then drag and drop the process, the one I've added before in my app here. So that's what I want to do for now. And later on, I would want to update also the fields displaying the number of invoices and delivery notes, but I haven't created those yet. So I have to go back. What I need to do now is insert basically some kind of label for the number of invoices and delivery notes. And maybe to just play a bit with containers and see how we can divide our page. Let's add a new control. Let's go to containers and add a container inside my layout. Let's put it here. Make it bigger. And now inside this container, I want to add my labels. Let's add a new control. Let's add here a display label. I want to call this number of invoices. Let me add a new one. Maybe over here. We call it number of delivery notes. All right, and what I would want to do is basically to show the number of invoices and on the right hand side to show the actual number, and same for delivery notes. And how I can do it, and that's the reason why I added a new container, is I can go into styling, and by default I have a vertical layout for my items, for my labels in this case, but I want to have a horizontal one. So if I do that, it will show the two next to each other. So what I need to do actually is then add a new container and separate the two. I will add a new one here. Let me select this container, make it bigger. All right, that worked. So now I have my invoices in the first container, my delivery notes label in the second one. And what I will do now is change, or first let's add a new control, let's add a new label, and this label will actually contain the number of invoices. So I'll go to general, I will delete its text here, and now it's basically kind of invisible here, but I have it on the left hand panel, and I can modify its name here. So I'll call it number invoices, and let's do the same for delivery notes. The new control, add a label. You see now this is this container has a vertical layout. I will choose the horizontal one to have it displayed here nicely. And now on my label, I will delete its text again and select it from here, give it a name, number del notes. All right. And now I have all my labels set here. What I want to do is once I give it a path and check the files, this will run. My backend process will calculate here the number of delivery notes and invoices in these arguments. And I want to show them back on the app in these labels here. So to do that, I need to modify my rule on the button because this is my only interaction, my only user interaction. I give it a path and I click the button. And once I click the button and the bot runs, in the edit rule, I want to add some rules to when the bot completes running. So that means I want to go here when completed, and I want to set some values. So the fields I want to set from my page are, and this is again very nice now because we have named them properly. I have the number of invoices. I will drag and drop it here. And here I will select my argument from the process. It's out int invoices. And I want to do the same. So I click here again to have a new rule for when completed. And I will select again set values. I will select my number delivery notes. Just drag and drop it. And here, sometimes it doesn't select, okay. I need to select now the out into delivery notes argument. All right, so what this does, after the button is clicked, the process, the backend process runs. That's defined here. And then when it finishes, when it's completed, and the arguments contain the actual number of invoices and delivery notes, then those values will be set to these elements on the app. All right, so that's it for the rule. And now let's just run it and see how it works. So we can click the preview button. We should give it here the folder path. I will just copy paste it from here. And we click the check files button. Now the backend process should run. And once it finishes, it should display here the number of invoices and delivery notes. Nothing happened. Let's see why. All right, so let's have a look at the check files button again, the events. So we are running the process. We are setting the values, but we forgot to overwrite the input. And I will select again. I have to have the in direction of the string path because I'm feeding this to the backend process. And then here I will have the path value. So see this icon here, this is the input screen. I will drag and drop it here. Then on the when completed, I have the number of delivery notes and the argument, as well as the number of invoices and the argument. That looks good. Let's close. Let's try to preview. And we paste here the path. And there it is. So what runs, we have 3 invoices and 2 delivery notes in our folder. So now we are ready to publish the app. We can go with publish. It has successfully published it. So if I go now to my apps folder, I can see it here as published. This concludes the introductory video of the UiPath apps. We went through the interface and have looked at most options. We have also built a very simple app that communicates with the bot and counts the number of invoices and delivery notes in a folder. I hope this was useful for you. If you want to support the channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to be informed of upcoming new videos. Thank you for watching and have a great day.